Okay, so good morning to UbiTennis fan. Here is Federico Bertelli. Today we have the pleasure to speak with Shane Liyanage, CEO and founder of Data-Driven Sport Analytics. Shane provides a range of data analytics services with players such as Arina Sabalenka, Sergio Jabeur, Emily Rusuwori, and of course, it's really a pleasure to have him here after the maiden Grand Slam title of Arena, and it's a pleasure to have a talk with you after 2 years we had the last talk. So before anything, what are your feelings after the win of Arena?
Yeah, firstly, thanks for having me on, Federico. It's good to chat to you again. Yeah, look, very, very happy for her. I think it's been a long couple of years. She's definitely done a lot of hard work, so I'm very happy for her, first and foremost, and of course the coach and the rest of the team as well. It was a great night.
And I also take a look at your Twitter profile. If I'd like just to share the video in just a second. Can you see it?
Yeah.
So, for example, you provide some stats, and it was really interesting talking about, of course, Arena, Team Sabalenka. And when I see 9,000 hours of work, what does it mean? How can you give us an explication of these metrics?
Yeah, I think the first thing to point out is that's my team at Data-Driven Sports Analytics. It's not one person doing those hours. There's a number of us sort of helping there. So yeah, the hours include things like video tagging. So there's still some manual element where we'd get a video of opponents, video of Arena, and I'd have different taggers go in. Some matches are short, some matches are long, but they could be spending 2-3 hours tagging information. So when the coach and the player get the video, they can see certain things. They might just want to focus on forehand errors, or they might want to watch the match but cut out any of the dead time. So all of that takes time. So yeah, there's some manual analysis there. There's also, when we're using Hawkeye, there's some time to process Hawkeye, create reports. Even when we're using our Vision AI tools, there's still some time required to get the data in the right structure for us to do some further analysis with. So yeah, this is, I guess, 3 years of work with Team Sabalenka. We've done a lot of video analysis, a lot of reports, a lot of deep dives, and I guess, yeah, it's all added up to just over 9,000 hours, which is, again, I'm very, very proud of my team, my small team, I think, that's been able to put in so much work for her team over the last couple of years.
So just to put the number in perspective, would you say that this is manual tagging or automatic tagging, or, for example, tagging through some kinds of artificial intelligence software? Would you say the part that I can label like taking the data is made mainly manually or automated?
It's a bit of both. So with some of the tournaments, we actually have access to Hawkeye data. So we'll pay and we'll be able to get Hawkeye data, or the tournament will provide us Hawkeye data. In that instance, we don't have to do as much manual tagging because we've got the ball tracking, player tracking, spin, speed data already. In some tournaments, we have to do fully manual tagging. So there's a little bit more sort of manual work. And we've also got our in-house computer vision AI tool that we use, but it only automatically tags certain amounts of things. So if we want to look at something in a little bit more detail, there's still some manual tagging required. So we based on the tournament, based on the situation, based on what we want to look at, we might do a lot of manual tagging, or we might do no manual tagging. So just with her, the certain things that we're looking for, we're still doing a little bit more manual tagging, but I think those hours are not just that. It's also the report preparation, the discussions, the we have high performance coaches on our team, so their analysis. So those hours are multiple things, sort of building into to being over 9,000 hours.
So would you say taking if you had to say it in percentage, the part of tagging, mainly we can say automated or manual tagging, which percentage of time is devoted to taking the data, and which part is devoted to maybe develop your platform and provide reports?
Yeah, look, it's how you look at it. So the manual tagging, we have multiple people doing it. So in terms of overall time, it's actually not a big, like I could have 10 different people doing 10 matches, the manual component, and they'll all be ready for me in 2 hours. So in terms of overall time, it's not a huge impact. I would say 40% of the 9,000 is that manual hours, but yeah, it's probably important to have that in your mind that yes, it totals 9,000 hours, but you know, there's multiple people doing it. It's not one person doing it. So I would say the analysis part is probably the most challenging part, because you're getting data from the video, you're getting data from Hawkeye, you're getting data from different sources, you're pulling it together, and then you need to have actually analyze it and provide context. That's the part that's probably the most, I guess, intellectually challenging, I would say, and that's yeah, again, that plays a big amount in the hours as well.
And for example, with the Hawkeye data, you have a lot of data, of course, about the speed, the spin, everything that is connected to the physics of the ball and also the physics of the player. That is something that you cannot have with manual tagging. When you are putting together all the data, how can you manage to make analysis with different granularity?
Yeah, look, I mean, with the Hawkeye data, it's in a JSON file format. There's lots of things that you can pull from and infer from the Hawkeye data. I think it's really important to understand the athlete you're working with and the opponent that they might be facing, and then pick out the bits that you want to use. And that takes a little bit of knowledge. We've created some tools where you put the JSON file in, and it automatically updates a dashboard. But still, sometimes there's a particular matchup, and then you just want to look at something else, and you need to go into the Hawkeye file. Probably getting a bit technical here, but you write some Python script, you get some output that you want, then you run it through and you analyze that. So yeah, I think there's no one size fits all for any analysis, although we do have certain tools that automate some of the Hawkeye conversions that we have. You also pointed out, yeah, manual tagging, you can't get some of the speed spin data, but we do have our own in-house AI tool that we use, where you can get a single camera broadcast vision, you put it in there, and within 45 minutes, it'll process that, give us the output, which estimates speed, spin, trajectory, clearance over the net, things like that. Although, yeah, if you get Hawkeye data, you want to use it because that's the most accurate that we've got at the moment.
Okay, and talking about Arina, that considering that she's in the spotlight right now, what kind of services, what kind of information or report do you get to her, and do you speak directly to her or only to her coach?
Yeah, I think all the communication really goes via the coach, Anton Dubrov. You know, on occasion, you know, she's there and there might be a question, but look, I try and go through the coach. I think it's really important to do that because he understands the athlete better than I'll ever understand the athlete. He's with her on tour. He knows, you know, the emotions and, you know, if she's having a bad day, a good day, whatever it is. So going via him is the best way, and he can then make a decision on what information to pass on, when to pass it on, all of those things that are really important. In terms of the services, yeah, we scout opponents for them, so they get video of the opponents, you know, usually 4 or 5 videos at least of an opponent. We'll get video of her match to her, then we'll provide a scouting report as well. So, you know, 10 to 15 pages of the opponent and our, I guess, our high level keys to, you know, what are the keys to winning that match. So they get that. Periodically, they'll get a report on how things are going. So, you know, what's working well, what's not working well, areas to focus on. And then, you know, the deep dive reports, we might do 1 or 2 a year where we get a lot of data from the year, and we'll analyze all facets of a game, and we do that. And then sometimes the coach might say, look, Shane, I want you to look at this, or I want you to have a look at, you know, these opponents, or what they're doing well, and provide a review. So yeah, it's quite flexible, but we have some standard reports that they get and some periodic reports, but also the coach might ask me for some random analysis as well. So yeah, that's roughly the services that we provide.
Okay, and talking about the final game of Arena against Rybakina, and what is the advice that you're most proud of, that in your mind it was really work best, and the one that really didn't work?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I don't want to give you too much, only because we might have to play Rybakina many times, I think. But look, I can say I don't think there was just one thing I was proud of or one thing I was disappointed in. I think there was, you know, elements. There are lots of elements that I think from the plan and from the analysis that the team put together. It's not just me put together that I think she implemented quite well. Particularly, I mean, one obvious one was that she adapted was to be the one making the first strike. So I think in the first set she was nervous. She let Rybakina have the first strike, and that got her on defense too often. Particularly defense going backhand versus backhand against Rybakina is not a good play, because Rybakina's backhand was unbelievable. So I think she made that adjustment herself and started following the plan a little bit more from the first set on. So definitely pleased. There are a few things else that she did implement quite well, but I'm also very pleased that she was able to adapt on court. And that's not just what the plan that we gave her on the day. It's all of the things that we've done over the last 3 years as a team, that she was able to think for herself and remember some of the things that we've talked about and actually implement it in a match. And that's what I was the most pleased about, that she's come a long way to be able to think so clearly on court.
Okay, it's like a puzzle that finally got all the pieces right.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think sometimes you just it's easy just to look at the one bit of analysis and say, oh, that's the critical thing. And I think it's important that we're planning for every opponent so she has an idea. But for me, it's her understanding of her game and what works well from what court position, what strokes to use, what's the best way to deflect power. All of those things are things that she's learned over the last 3 years, and not just what we've provided. Obviously, what her physical coach, Jason Stacey, has been doing with her on the mental preparation, the physical side, what the coach is doing, what the hitting partners are doing, all of that sort of came together. And I think, yeah, as I said, the most pleasing part for me was her ability to think on court and adapt to what Rybakina was doing.
Okay, perfect. So I have just a second. Sorry about that. Was just trying. Okay, that was just stopping the sharing video. And since the message I'm trying to get is that coaches are vital in order to work as a gatekeeper, to give the right amount of information to the player in order to not to get them overwhelmed. And how do you get in touch with coaches? So coaches are always traveling most of the time with their players. So did you spend a lot of time also traveling in different tournaments? And what's your marketing strategy in a way to get new player and get new talent?
Yeah, to be honest, it's changed a lot. So at the start, when I guess this is going back 4 or 5 years, when I didn't have a lot of players at the time, I actually volunteered for a local coach, and we and just did some stuff. And then another coach found out, and they reached out. Actually, it was an Italian coach, Federico Bertelli. He reached out with Thomas Fabiano, I think in 2019, and they used us that year. He had a great year because of that. Other coaches, I think, started asking, going, "Oh, who did you use someone?" And they got my name. And Ons Jabeur, as coach, Isam Jalali started using me at the start of 2020. She went from, I think, maybe 80 in the world to, she was number 2 at the end of last year. Along the way, Arena's coach reached out. So I think most of them have actually, the ones that they've come to me because they've seen me working with someone else and approached me. Of course, there's some where we've trialed with, and we said, look, you can use us for one tournament for free if you like us, continue. And a few have done that. And then I think, but now I think even at the Australian Open, we didn't market at all. We didn't really sit down and advertise our product or anything like that. But we've had a number of reach out, and I think it's gotten to that stage. I'm not saying that we won't go to doing what we used to do, but for now anyway, we're very happy with the clients that we have, and we really leave it up to other coaches to think. If they think it's valuable, they want to come to us, we're always open for a chat, but we're not going to, I guess, go out too much to look for anyone.
Okay, so I think once you develop a relation, you get to know the coach, you get to know the player. You can maybe trying a more bespoke approach, a tailored approach, in order to understand what are really the needs of players or the coaches. But when you start the relationship, for example, you said I can give you a trial. It's like just a scouting of the opponent, of the next opponent of the player, in order to give you maybe just a screenshot of what are strengths and weakness of the opponent, for example, or I don't know, how does it work?
Yeah, usually we'll sit down. It could be Zoom or it could be just a WhatsApp message, and they might just go, okay, they want to try us. Most often it'll be for a tournament, so we're scouting an opponent, and they'll get a bit of an idea of that. I will always tell them, looking at the opponent is just one side of it. In fact, it might not even be the most important thing. It's always good to look at the player and have an idea of the player. But and usually at the end of the tournament, if they like what we do, they'll agree to doing a deep dive. And deep dives usually when we get 25 to 30 matches. We'll try and get some ball tracking data, and then we can break their game down into all the key elements: serve, return, movement, volleys, strengths, weaknesses, and that deep dive then gives a good grounding of what are the players' strengths, opportunities, areas that we want to protect. And that helps everything else, that we can bespoke then the scouting. We can bespoke because we know what our player is like or what we're working on. We can look at future analysis based on that and compare it. So that's really important. You mentioned before that the relationships is the most critical part of it. I think that over the last 3 years with Sabalenka, with 4 years with Isam, with Ons Jabeur, with Ruzavurid, all these players, that part it's been the most critical, and we've evolved. I think the reports that we started off with for each of them look completely different to what we have now, because the player's different, the coach is different, their understanding of data is different. So that's really important. And one thing I want to mention this year was we had actually live data from Hawkeye coming in to a dashboard, a tablet. So if you saw at the tournaments, you probably saw some of the coaches, some of the analysts in the players box with a tablet. So we were getting live Hawkeye data. So we were able to communicate with the player. So I would tell the coach. So in the final, you may have seen some vision of me pointing a few things out to the coach. The coach then communicated to the player. So that's another evolution. That's another service that that will be important, I think, for analysts to provide that live analysis going forward.
And I don't know if I can ask you, but OK data and live OK data, how much are they expensive to buy?
Yeah, I think it'll vary by tournament, but so this was actually something that the Game Insights group at Tennis Australia, which I actually support as well. We developed a product, and because Tennis Australia owned the Hawkeye data for the Australian events, they were able to develop a dashboard that both players teams would have access to. So there was no charge to the player in that instance, but yeah, we're at data-driven sports analytics. We are going to look at options. So we will definitely have conversations with Hawkeye about getting the live data feed for tournaments going forward. I'm sure some of the other tournaments will be looking to do something similar with on-court coaching allowed, or there's a trial period, but I think with it more likely to be allowed, I'm sure more tournaments will provide a similar service. So yeah, I think it's just going to become something that happens more regularly.
Okay, maybe just not to abuse of your time and your patience. And do you also work with junior players? And in case the answer is yes, I suppose in this case you don't have OK data. I think in this case mainly we are talking about manual tagging and all these kind of activities. So in this case, it's like just an investment for you. When you decide to work as junior players, because you really believe you can get something out of him.
Yeah, look, I think with junior players, look at ranges. So the really good junior players that are in the junior Grand Slam draws, particularly the US Open, Australian Open, you might be able to get access to Hawkeye data. Depends on the court, I think. Certainly the Australian junior players that I work with that are in the draws for the junior slams, they get access to their Hawkeye data. But yeah, in most cases, you don't have access to it. So there's a couple of options. Like I mentioned, it could be manual tagging, and you can still get some good data from the manual tagging because you can, in the manual tagging, plot where the ball lands, plot where you're hitting from. So you can get some good data and present that back in a useful way. As I said, we've got a computer vision tracking tool as well that you can put the vision through, and it will get some good data, estimate speed and spin. So there's still ways for it to be useful. Yes, you're right. In a way, some of the arrangements with the junior players that we do have, it is a little bit of an investment. We know that they don't have the budget to be able to pay for the full service as a professional player would. But if we choose to work with them, we obviously see some potential. And we at our core, I think we genuinely want the athletes to succeed. So we'll invest a bit of time. There's a couple of great junior players that we're working with at the moment that we believe will make some great ground going forward. So yeah, it's an investment on our part, but I think it's one that we're certainly willing to make.
Okay. And maybe one last question is maybe a more lighter one. Did you see the Netflix series Breakpoint? And in case if you have take a look, I have the impression that it was really centered on aspects that goes from psychological, from the psych, from the pressure that tennis really puts on the shoulder of players, and they are not so much it's not so much about technical stuff. It's not so much for maybe people already passionate about the sport. So what's your intake, and how do you think data can help to get a better psychology? For example, we saw Tsitsipas against Djokovic really choking in tie breaks. So maybe how can data can help not to choke?
Yeah, so on the first part of the question, yeah, I did watch the Netflix series. I actually like it. Look, I think tennis needs to promote more players, maybe get more people engaged with tennis that are outside of tennis at the moment. So I think it was good that it did that. I guess, yes, I would have loved to have a little bit more of the technical stuff in there, some more of the great matches, and do some episodes around that. But I also think the one of the main drivers is for people to connect with the players that are not, tennis fans. So I can understand they've done that. Look, that was just a few episodes that they've released. I'm sure in some of the later episodes they're going to dive into other things. I do know they are going to talk a little bit more about data in a couple of future episodes. I'm going to do a bit of a shout out to Mike James, who's working with Muratoglu Analytics, working with great players like Holger Rune, amongst others. So I'm sure he'll be featuring on some of the episodes, because I know he does some great work, and he's a great advocate for data in sports, and so they'll talk about that in future episodes, I believe. Maybe I'm not allowed to say that, but anyway, I've said it now. And I was around some of the filming as well, with ONS and with Arena. So that they may choose to use some of the stuff that we were doing as well. So I'm not sure if they will or that they will not. But yeah, in terms of using data for the psychological parts, absolutely, we use it. I'm sure a lot of the other companies do as well. We look at pressure situations, what they're doing, what the opponents are doing, what they're doing, what we think we predict. So based on some prediction analysis on what would be the best way to overcome. So data is being used already to look at that pressure situations. I'm sure Tsitsipas, his team did look at that. It's one thing knowing it, and another thing executing it. So that's something that's important to always put. I'm sure a lot of the big players, they've got some great analysts around them, and they have the information. But yeah, as I said, executing and knowing are two different things.
It's easier said than done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So, well, it's been really a pleasure for me to have you. It's been really a packed half an hour, so I'm really glad for your time and your collaboration. And of course, I hope in the future to have more speak with you with UbiTennis also. Maybe an idea could be for the next Grand Slam to have some chats about bigger matches. Maybe could be a good idea.
Yeah, certainly open to it. I would love to. Thanks for the invite for that.
Okay, thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.